So good morning. On behalf of the Student Council and Peer Leadership Council, I would like to welcome you to the 2021 Elgin Park Virtual Career Webinar. And today I'm speaking on the shared traditional and unceded territory of the Katsi, Semiahmoo, and Coast Salish peoples. To begin, my name is Rachel and I'll be your coordinator for this session. We also have our wonderful PLC and Stuco volunteers here as chat moderators and note takers. And before we start the program, I have a few reminders for you to please keep your microphones off and send all the questions for our speakers to the public chat. Our moderators will ask them for you during the Q&A portion. And if you require any technical support, please direct message our moderator, Ruth, or me. And as we are sharing the school Wi-Fi, the network may be slow at times, so please minimize the network traffic by turning off all devices that are currently not in use. We appreciate your support and patience. And I would like to welcome all of our classes. Thank you so much for joining us. Most of the school is here right now. And I'll be passing the mic on to our student interviewer, Kaylin, who will introduce our honored speaker today.
Thanks, Rachel. So our speakers here today are Berkeley and Dylan Ratzlaff. These two sisters grew up in Abbotsford, BC, and entered the world of professional dancing and acting at a young age. They've trained with renowned choreographers and competed throughout Canada and the United States. You may even know them through their role as Jackie and Davis on The Next Step, and various appearances in Freaky Friday, Deadly Class, and Netflix's Cinderella Christmas. I'm super excited to learn more about you guys' exciting careers and the journey you guys took to get where you are today. So please join me in welcoming Berkeley and Dylan Ratzlaff.
Thank you.
Back. So we'll start off with a few interview questions. So for anyone wishing to pursue a career in acting or dancing, what would you recommend they do to get started?
Yeah, so the first thing is searching for an agency. That's the biggest thing. To get auditions, you need to have an agent. Some productions like Descendants that we worked on, they had open calls, so you can always go to an open call. But talking to your dance teachers or anyone you know that has an agent to get a reference, to then go have meetings with agents, take as many meetings as you can. That's the biggest thing to get started first.
And you can also, especially on the acting side, you can audit classes. So if it's something that you're kind of exploring and you're not sure if you want to do it or not, you can always go into an acting class and audit it and see what it's all about. And then from there, if you find something you really like, then you can take a full monthly session and find some cool stuff from there.
Great. So getting an agent and going to dance classes to really get started. All right. So what kind of process did you have to go through before landing a spot on The Next Step?
So my process was a little crazy. I always thank my mom because I was on spring break when the audition came out through my agent. And I was typical 15-year-old. I was like, this is my vacation. Like, I am not doing an audition. She's like, Dylan, like, don't be scared. Like, you should do the audition. And I was, because I had actually auditioned prior season 4 and didn't get it. They were looking for more of a hip hopper, and I'm more of like a slow contemporary dancer, so I didn't get it that season. So season 5, I auditioned again on spring break. Thankfully I did, because within a couple of weeks, the producers were like, we want to Skype you because we film in Toronto. And so that's a 5-hour flight from here. So it's a pretty far ways. Yeah, so I Skyped with them. And then the next day, they're like, we need you to fly out because we want you to do a callback. And my parents were in Turkey on their anniversary trip. So I was like 15. I was like, who's going to take me? So my old dance teacher took me. We were there for less than 24 hours. I flew back home, and within 3 days, they're like, you booked the job. You have to move out within 2 weeks. So it was kind of like a crazy process for me, like within the Skype, and then literally less than 24 hours was in Toronto. Did a callback, which was basically a dance audition and an acting audition. And then I left, and then, found out I booked the job, and they're like, okay, you're coming in 2 weeks. Finally. Like, oh my gosh.
Yeah, and for me, my process was a little different. So I auditioned for season 4 and season 5, didn't get it. So then season 6 came out, and I was like, hey, this is my last chance at it. If I don't get it, I'm not auditioning for the show ever again. And so I sent in a self-tape, and they're like, okay, awesome, we want you to come to the callbacks, but you can skip the dance callback and go straight to acting. So I was like, that's a bonus, because I had flown out while Dylan was filming season 5, had met all the producers. They obviously knew I could dance. So they're like, we don't need to see you dancing. We're just go straight to acting. So then after that, made the cut, had a weekend in Toronto, I came back and they're like, okay, we really like you. We want to kind of write a sister storyline for Jackie, sorry. And I was like, hey, that's awesome. Like,
But then
we're real life sisters, but
then they changed their mind and they're like, no, we actually want Jackie to have a brother. And I was like,
Oh.
I have a real life sister that can act and dance. Like, it would be so cool.
yeah.
They're like, we want a brother.
So I was on hold for 6 weeks at home
Wow.
waiting to get the call to be like, you need to book your flight and move out here.
I had left already
Yeah.
for rehearsal for season 6.
Uh-huh.
They already started filming, and then finally they're like, okay, we're gonna bring you in halfway through the season, get on a plane now and move out. And I was like, okay, great.
Wow. So
Yeah.
you guys really persisted,
Yeah.
never give up.
For sure, yeah. And always listen to your parents if they want you to do an audition on spring break.
So what does a typical day, like filming, dancing, a typical day in your work look like?
It changes all the time depending
Yeah.
on what we're doing. But right now, kind of what happens is I'll get up, do a workout, we'll film maybe a YouTube video, or sometimes we'll have a self-tape to film. Especially with COVID right now, we used to do in-person auditions. Obviously, that can't happen. So you film them at home. So
Yeah.
in the morning, we'll film an audition if we have one. And then I am teaching right now. So I'll go and teach for 5 to 7 hours. That'll kind of be my day.
And we teach together and apart at a few different studios. So usually we will either prep for our classes or do some choreography that we need to do together, do it separately, and then teach pretty much all night. Come back, do it again the next day.
But if we're on set, like the whole
Yeah.
day you're on set basically. So you'll just wake up, kind of show up to set, do your work there and come home, have some dinner and go to bed kind of. So it just kind of depends what's happening in our life.
Well, since you guys are going on set, very busy schedule, but how do you overcome struggles? What was the hardest part about being on set, and what were your favorite moments?
Yeah, the hardest part of being on set is definitely the long hours and grueling days. It's a lot of hard work. I think people think that the hardest part is auditioning and getting the job, and then it's like, oh yeah, it's fun, whatever. But actually being on set for sometimes, 17, 16 hours a day, it's really hard. So that's definitely the hardest part of the job. But I think for auditioning wise, we had to shift our mindset. And there's this George Clooney quote about how, they need you. They're looking to fill a role and they really need you. So
Whereas,
shifting.
we used to think like, oh, like, what do they want from us? Like, how can I, like, what do they need? Like, what are they looking for? And it's like shifting your focus to like, I'm the person that they need.
Yeah. So it's their loss, not our loss, and having to not depend on like, oh, I need this to book this audition so I have a job so I can pay for myself for the month, and being able to just go and do it freely and then walk out that door and forget about it. And if you book it, great. If you don't, on to the next one.
And kind of what we did is we created our own brand called Sweet and Salty. So we do like workshops and YouTube videos on the side. And so let's say we have an audition that didn't work out. Well, we have a workshop we're working on within the next month. So we're always working on our own opportunities so that if something else kind of doesn't work out, we have something that is working out, and like that's in our control. So having something to like work towards and an opportunity that's in your control always brings out a positive and a negative situation.
So definitely having a good mindset and having a backup plan to.
Yes.
Right. Okay. So did you ever have a pivotal moment in dance or acting that allowed you to choose this career?
For me, like, it's pretty cliche, but the next step,
Same here.
all the time, because I was so young. Like, I was 15 when I landed the job. So like I was at a dance studio 20 plus hours a week. I was doing online school. Like, I was just kind of being the typical student. And then all of a sudden it's like, oh, you just booked a TV show at 15. And I was like, well, maybe this is something I can do as a career. Because for me, like, I knew I wanted to dance and act, but like, obviously it's a difficult road to go down. So you don't ever know if it'll work out. So I was like, okay, I want to make sure I have my sciences because I potentially want to be a chiropractor. And then as soon as I like booked that, I was like, wait, like, I think I can do this. And so that was kind of the moment where I switched focuses and I was like, okay, let's put 110% into this.
Yeah. And I think the next step specifically, I did a few jobs before that one, but that one it just opened up so many doors for us to explore different options and to be able to create our own brand and do these workshops and stuff like that.
Yeah.
So it definitely we call it the jumping off point of our career.
So what kind of sacrifices, if any, did you have to make to really be part of the next step, or like really get into your career?
For me, a big one was online school. Grade 6, I remember looking at my report card and it was like you'd missed 30 days that year. So I'm like, I missed a full month of school. So I was like, if this is happening in grade 6, I'm like, I can't imagine going to high school and missing a full month. Like I would be so sad. And so I was like, if I really want to do this, like being able to be self-paced was kind of what I was working towards. So I did online school and ended up that each year I would finish a month early so that I'd almost have 3 months of like no school, which was kind of crazy, to like basically pursue this career. So that was a big one for me. And with that, you like didn't lose some friendships, but obviously you lost the social aspect of school. And so it was like finding friends within that career and like, I don't know, like just being young and like having to navigate through being mature in that sense.
At 16, I was considered a professional dancer, so I wasn't allowed to compete at competitions anymore like I used to. And so the sacrifices of dancing at a studio, I never walked across the stage for graduation or prom or anything like that. And then for the next step, we obviously filmed in Toronto. So at 16 and 18, we were living on our own. We moved across the country. And some people may say we sacrificed the summer to film. I disagree because it was the best summer of my life. But it was all the things leading up to it, a lot of sacrifices that allowed us to have careers at, 15 and 16.
There's the quote, like, if you do what you love, you don't work a day in your life. And it's so true. Like, you get to make sacrifices like for school and friendships and all of that. But like, I am so blessed and I feel so happy to do what I'm doing as a career. So,
I can really tell that, it's not an easy path, right? There are some challenges. So what kept you going during challenging times like online school?
I think just always having that goal in mind and like it could be mini goals and it could be big goals. Like originally it was like, oh, I want to land a TV series. And then that happened. Okay, what's the next thing? Okay, I want to work on a movie. So how am I going to get towards that? So it's having goals in mind and like I said, creating your own opportunities. So
and I think we lost some friendships of like the school and stuff like that, but through the next step we gained our best friends, and it was even so much better because they were going through the exact same thing as us, being young professionals. And so they got it. They got what we were going through. They got through the sacrifices. So we were able to depend and inspire each other throughout the whole process.
And in life, there's always going to be ups and downs. Like it's never just going to go upwards. And I find that my character development happens in the lows, and like finding like if I can persevere this, like I'm like, wow, I'm actually really strong, and like I just so like it's okay to go through those ups and downs, and to know that like through those downs is like when you kind of have to bear down and like find who you are in a sense, and like it'll create like your character and like who you are, and that's like I think one of the best lessons.
That's definitely a lot of great things to take away from you guys' experience. So what is one tip you would give to students who wish to find success, whatever that may be in their professional careers?
Yeah, I think, well, we obviously talked a lot about the process leading up to like getting the jobs, but it's like once you secure that job, to being adaptable, to be a kind and good and hardworking person that people want to work with. I had this happen to me where on this one show, I was only booked for one episode and I loved it so much. And then they called me and they're like, actually, we'll want to feature you on another episode of this TV show. I was like, well, that's awesome because I loved working with these people. They obviously loved working with me too. So I was so grateful, and it led to more opportunities by me just coming in, doing my job, being hardworking, and
And I think also a lot of people are scared to pursue their dreams. And like I said, like we had to put a lot of hard work in it. So if that means a few sleepless nights to like get your schoolwork done, and then for the night work on that dream that you have, like you have to put 110% into it. And like it's okay to take the risk. Like a lot of us were scared. We're like, oh, like, is this gonna work? Like, am I gonna be an actor? And it's like, you know, like you have to put those like 8 hours into school and then those extra 8 hours into your like passion. Yeah. So it's like when we're at this age, like we have a lot of energy. It's the best years of our life. So it's like you might as well just put all your energy into it and not be scared to like put that 110% into that passion.
So take risks, work hard.
Yes. Exactly.
Thank you guys so much for volunteering your time with us today. Before we move on to the Q&A portion, do you guys have anything else you want to share?
I think it's so cool that we get to be a part of this, especially like I'm 22, she's 20 now. We're pretty young still for the profession we work in. And I wish I would have had somebody at 16 telling me like, oh, you need to do this, and this is how this process goes. And this is kind of what it looks like if you want to work in this industry. And so I feel grateful to be able to do this for other people, even if you don't go into dancing and acting, if you can take away something from this.
I was just gonna say, like, some of the things we're saying like doesn't always have to apply to acting and dancing. Like just putting 110% into that passion, and like it's okay to, like, a lot of people at grade 12, like, it's so young to not like to know what you want to do. That was my thing, is like, how am I supposed to like figure out my career at 18? Just like being open to what like the path leads you to. And like the next step was obviously a big thing, and it was like, okay, this is clearly what you want to do, but just like taking note of like what you're good at, what your passions are, and just letting that kind of guide you, and like being okay with like not having a set career at 18, like to be open to new ideas. I think is a good piece of advice, because I think a lot of us are like, we need to have a career at 18, and if that's not it, like you just need to delve into as many things as you can, and then eventually like something's gonna latch on, and you'll be like, this is what I want to do, kind of thing.
Thank you so much, guys. So our moderator Ruth will be relaying some questions in the chat, and we'll move on to our Q&A session.
Great.
Yeah, I was so blown away by all the advice that you have given, and I was just like, I agree so much with, like, right now I'm grade 12, but it is really insane how right now I'm forced into this mindset. I have to know exactly what I'm going into, even though I know there are gonna be paths in ahead that I'll have to, take some weird routes, and it won't be just a straight path to a career. Yeah. So that's really important for our students here to learn, especially like the career classes that we have here. Yeah. So one of the questions, actually my question, but you mentioned briefly that you have a brand and it's called Sweet and Salty. Do you mind elaborating a little more? Because that's businesswoman.
So we're very different, although we might seem very outgoing. Berkeley is actually super shy and like always just wants to like laugh at everyone's jokes. We're like, I'm much more outgoing and like a little sassy, they say. So that's why I'm salty and she's sweet, and like it kind of complements each other. But with that, that's how we kind of created the name, and then what we do.
And then we started with just a YouTube channel, and then we branched into kind of taking it as a brand about what we do as a whole. So like our teaching and our workshops. So we started a Zoom series throughout COVID to kind of connect people throughout the world, do a little beginner dance class and stuff like that. We have our clothing as well. It's kind of just like what we do as a whole. And it's mostly the Instagram and the YouTube as well.
Yeah.
Wow, interesting. And here, Jennifer has a question. What does the future hold for you guys? And as young dancers / actors, what would you like to do in the future?
That's a great question. It's always so hard to like answer what the future is, because like it depends. Like honestly, with our career, something could change within a day. So recently, like I was actually really struggling with like what I wanted to do in my life, because I wasn't getting like a lot of acting auditions, and nothing was really going my way. And I was like, maybe I just want to be a dance teacher. Like I was like, okay, that's a pretty steady job. Next 5 years, I'm going to just focus on dancing. And then all of a sudden I booked this movie. And for the next month, I was filming this movie, which is coming out in fall. It's super exciting. But I was just like, okay, no, like I'm going to do this acting thing again. So like it depends kind of what's happening. But I think if we can grow our brand more and then just keep auditioning and trying to land some more acting roles. But I think we've been really loving these workshops that we've been putting on. Like we've met people from India, Ireland, like all over the world taking our workshops. And we want to kind of expand that and be able to offer some more styles and like teach children across the world that we wouldn't normally get to, because it's expensive to travel and all that. So Zoom has kind of allowed us to create this brand for workshops, which I'd like to expand on.
And then hopefully when the world opens up to be able to travel and actually meet those people in person and do these workshops. But we always have so many balls up in the air, and we're like, okay, this month we're going to work on our YouTube and social media, and this month we're going to work on our workshops. And so it's always ever changing. But I think if we always have these like few different things that we can go to, we'll just be like, we love what we do. And so to be able to
Mhm.
do that as work is like
Yeah.
just been so amazing.
Mhm.
Yeah, and I think I'll just ask for everyone who's curious, like, is there any way that we can find out updates about you guys and like who do we contact, where do we go if we want to actually take a class from you or just attend the workshop to see like how it is like if you can care to elaborate a little bit more on
Yeah,
that?
so we post a lot of our updates on our Instagrams. So our main one for Sweet and Salty is at Sweet and Salty Inc. And then you can find our personal ones through there.
Mhm.
But we always do like posts and YouTube videos explaining when our next workshops are. We always have the links. We do them through Eventbrite. So even if you search up, I think it's your name or
Yeah.
Berkeley and Dylan, you can see the workshops that we've done as well. So yeah, Instagram is kind of the main thing where you can find updates about all that
Yeah,
stuff.
and I think our next upcoming workshop is going to be in June, I believe. So you can kind of expect there to be a workshop in June, and then again, search it on Eventbrite or Instagram, and you'll find information there.
Awesome. Yeah. And just backpedaling a little bit, do you think because you talked like a little bit about having multiple things going on and do you think you can sustain your careers here in Canada or would moving to US make more sense?
I actually think right now, Vancouver is the perfect spot for us because of the American and Canadian dollar. A lot of American companies come down here to film movies and TV shows and stuff like that. So we do have an agent in LA, but we've actually never flown to LA for auditions or anything like that. It's mostly just in Vancouver and Toronto, especially with Netflix. They're building a hub here in Vancouver and Toronto. So yeah, right now Vancouver is the perfect spot for us.
And especially because a lot of the work we do is online, like filming, everything can be done from like a home base and be like projected out towards the world. So like to go to LA, which is a lot of dancers' dreams, actually doesn't make sense for us because most of the work is online. Plus like Vancouver, if you look at the like scene of Vancouver, like you can get city, you can get beach, you can get forest, you can have mountains. So many companies come here because they can get so much scenery from Vancouver. So a lot of film companies like that ability to film everywhere. So and there's so much work here.
What happens is most Canadians who go to LA to pursue dance careers
come back.
If you're in television, if you're doing like award shows and that type of stuff, LA is perfect, but they often come back here to film because it's all just filmed here.
Wow, it's like really interesting to get this insider's view because I think a lot of just people just looking inside, they think of about like a certain image of what the acting slash film industry looks like, but it's actually not the case. So it's really interesting to hear about it. And also like we've had a cinematographer just before the session, and interestingly, he mentioned the same thing, like it depends a lot on the US slash Canadian like currency. Like I didn't realize how much of an impact just this difference in the US and Canada dollar is, but like it is really important. And like, it affects a lot of things, which surprises me. Yeah, and Kaylin, your interviewer, said, "How is it like having a sister working on set with you?"
So, okay, Berkeley has a funny story. So I'll let her tell it first and then I'll cap it off.
So my first day on set on The Next Step, I was kind of walking onto Dylan's territory a little bit.
Because I've been there a season before.
And so it was my first day. I didn't know where anything was. And I had just like eaten something from crafting. I was like, hey, Dylan, can you like show me where like the garbage is? And she looked at me and snapped at me and she's like, find it yourself. And
I promise I'm not actually that mean, but it was more just like, oh, these are my friends. Like but anyways, so everything in Toronto is very expensive. So we actually had to rent a one in den.
With three
people. So it was us two and another person on the show. So it was tiny. So we actually shared a bed, shared a bathroom.
For 3 months.
So we kind of came to terms that like, if we're fighting, like it's gonna make things on set awkward. Like it's gonna make our scenes awkward. And so we're like, you know what, we need to figure this out. So we actually ended up like becoming closer. And it was probably one of the best things that happened to us. Because obviously when 15 and like 17, like you definitely have some attitudes and you can clash. And being the older sister, she's like, you can't steal my clothes, and you get all those problems. But it was more like, okay, we figured out, okay, I like to clean the floor, she likes to do the laundry, okay, let's see how that works. And
and then it translated on set. We were able to work better together. And then when we did have a lot of fighting scenes on the next step. So when we were angry at each other, we were able to just go at it, and it was acting. But then it was more authentic. So we were able to have a really authentic relationship on screen as well.
Yeah, awesome. Where is it? Give me 1 second. I have like a really, so let's talk a little bit more about like the high school, because most of our audience here today is like high schoolers. So what was your favorite course in high school, and if did it ever impact your career choice?
So interesting enough, because I don't know if anyone's watched The Next Step, but I had a science storyline on The Next Step, and they actually got it from my real life. My favorite course was chemistry, which is the weirdest thing, because I feel like people talking to me, they'd be like, you like chemistry? I loved it. It was like my favorite course. And being a dancer, I was always interested in the human body, and I'm still very interested in it. And I'll read anatomy books and translate that into my teaching. So for me, I was like, I want to be a chiropractor, physiotherapist. That's where I kind of wanted to go with my life if dancing didn't work out. So it definitely impacted the way I thought about schooling. But now that I'm a dance teacher, it still kind of carries over, because I love to learn the muscles and their function, and just like teach the dancers like, okay, this is a healthy way of stretching and all that, where a lot of teachers like are just primarily like dance focused, where I like to like focus on the longevity of someone's like body and health and all that. So that's kind of affected the way I teach. So chemistry is my favorite course.
School was not my strong suit necessarily. Dylan got that gene, but I loved my drama and art classes, and that definitely came through because I'm a very creative person and I love graphic design, and I do all the back end stuff for Sweet and Salty. So I make sure that our YouTube and Instagram are cohesive and we have a look and a brand. That's definitely come out in my work life.
Yeah, I would say the one thing that we really cannot do is sing.
Yes.
So, or play any instruments. We were not blessed with that gene. So we wanted to be triple threats, dancing, acting, and singing, but unfortunately we're only double threats, but it's okay. We're still working on the singing portion of it.
Well, you've got like a whole business going on too. So I was just gonna go back to like, it is really interesting how even though like dancing is like just on one side, like acting, and then chemistry is like completely STEM, but they're still very intercorrelated, and like the interdisciplinarity like is something that's really important, especially right now.
And that's what we found, like a lot of times like in school, like people don't like a course, or in a dance class they don't like a style of dance, and it's just like, as you get older, you realize how everything is like intertwined and everything helps towards your goal, right? So like maybe ballet wasn't my favorite, but now I know going into an audition that my technique is going to be really good, even though I didn't love ballet, but it helps towards that audition to get that dance job. So like, it's important to do the things that you maybe necessarily don't love to do, because they all contribute to your goal, I would say.
Oh yeah, and adding from that, what is your favorite form of dance?
I love, I jumped on you. I love acro and contemporary. So acro is kind of like gymnastics, so a lot of flipping and all that. So I love to do cool tricks, and so I kind of like to combine that with contemporary, which is more of a slower type of dance.
I love teaching contemporary, but I actually love performing hip hop the most. We went on tour with The Next Step to Australia and the UK, and we had this one hip hop dance that was like kind of a back and forth between the audience, and they danced with us, and that was like my favorite thing to do on tour.
Yeah.
Wow. And how was the tour in Australia and stuff?
It was amazing. I mean, honestly, like we worked our bodies very hard. Like we would do double shows. So each show was about 2 hours of dancing. And then some days you'd have 2 of those. So we actually got to live on a tour bus.
So cool.
So there was, 11 of us sleeping in this bus that would just travel from place to place, which was kind of crazy. And then we would just get to do shows all day, which was so awesome. But getting to see the world was like the best part. Like working,
Yeah.
but then like we would sometimes have mornings off to explore cities, which was so cool.
Yeah, definitely a dream job.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's like I would even like envy that. But for some of us students who are looking for that type of experience, what can they do right now to kind of like if that's something they want to really pursue?
Yeah, so I think the biggest thing is start building up your resume, and that doesn't mean you have to book a TV show or a movie. So I actually was in a bunch of my school's plays, so I put that. We did a bunch of live shows like Canada Day parades, your training as well, just taking different classes.
And research who like what choreographers
Mhm.
or what directors are working right now and trying to make connections. Like there's casting director workshops. So if you want to go into the acting industry, like take a casting director workshop so you can make that connection with them, so that when they see your resume pop up for an audition, they'll be like, I know that person. Or if the choreographer is hiring and they know of you, then they're going to be like, I trust this person. They're going to work hard. Let's hire them. So I think doing your research is a big thing as well. And again, building up that resume, student films, like even create a little student film in your backyard and have that on YouTube so people can look at it. So creating those opportunities and doing your research on what choreographers are hiring and what directors are directing movies right now.
And adding on to that, if you know that a choreographer is, say, like on a movie, ask if you can shadow them for a day.
Yes.
Or there's these jobs called, I think they're like COVID people now.
Yeah, you can be COVID safety officers on set. So like, even if that's like, you can like work your way up. That's the thing. Or become a PA. A PA is something that will get the director his coffee. And I know it sounds kind of not as exciting, but if you can
see the
start with
whole
those
back end of like how those sets go on, and then when you're in front of the camera, you know how it works in the back, so like you have so much more knowledge then. So
you can sign up to be a COVID safety person and just like understand how set works if you've never been on set, or get to, then you can also make those connections, right? You with the director, hand him his coffee and be like, hey, by the way, my name's Dylan, like I would love to work for you again, kind of thing. So just like those little connections, and it's so true, like start from the bottom and work your way up.
Yeah, I bet there's going to be a lot of COVID safety officers because of what you just said.
Oh, totally. Like when I was on set, like I always had to have a mask on. And as soon as it came down to eat some food, they're like, you know, after you eat that food, like you have to put your mask back on. Like
you literally just go around making sure that people are distancing, wearing their mask. You have these like wristbands to make sure that like you have your temperature checked. So you make sure people have their wristbands. Our friend is doing that right now as just like extra work in between, and he loves it.
Yeah.
Wow. Okay. I definitely want to try that.
Yeah.
Okay. Let me see how much time. All right. One last question. You did, I think like I can speak for a lot of us today that you've been just, even in this short amount of time, you've given us so much solid advice on not only just the field of acting and dance, but in general, the professions and what to look forward in life as well. And so you're kind of like our little mentors for us. So a question for you guys is, did you have a mentor? If so, how has your mentor impacted you? And why do you think having a mentor is important in the exploration of a career pathway?
That is such a great point, because I think it's okay to have multiple mentors, and it does not matter what age you are. You can be 50 and still need a mentor. I think like having those people in your life is the biggest thing. And there was a period in my life where I'm a perfectionist, and so I really struggled with that. When I was competing at 13, I would come off stage and cry if I did one thing wrong. And so Mom was like, hey, we need to find someone for you that like will help mentor your life. And he gave me this quote called "Rest in your best." And it sounds so simple, but it's what I live by now. And it basically means that whatever you felt that day, that's the best you could do at that point in time. If you felt sick and you maybe didn't have your best performance, consider you were sick. You probably did a great job for what you had. And so being able to come off stage or after that test, knowing that that was the best you put out, is just to rest in it. So rest in your best. That's kind of the best advice I got from my mentor.
Yeah, we have this one person that we meet with separately and together, and we will go out for coffee with her and talk with her for like 3 hours. And she will just be like, okay, like you should try this, you should do this, and just give us advice on literally anything we need, not just like career-wise, but life-wise as well. And just help us in like, if I need to call her about an audition, like I know she's gonna pick up right away or send me a text back. And so she has been such like a light for us, especially in this industry. Because this industry is a little crazy at times. So finding those good people that you can trust and like go to whenever you need to. We've really loved having her for that.
And just having someone to like basically solidify what you're feeling at some times, or to just help you through those tough times, or even like celebrate the good times with you. I think that's such an underrated moment. Is like a lot of people are like, when they have success, they're like feel bad about celebrating it, but like that mentor will be there with you and be like, yes, we did this. Like, so being able to be there in the good times and the bad times is just to have someone, because it's never good to do something alone. Like, it's always good to have someone there for you and to have your back.
Yeah, that was so heartfelt. Rest in your best. I will remember that. Bye. Yep. And I will pass it back to Rachel, the session coordinator.
So now that our session has come to an end, I would like to thank our speakers again, Ms. Berkeley and Dylan Ratzlaff, for taking the time to join us today. I'm sure many of us were inspired by your stories. It was so interesting to hear about the challenges that you faced as young professionals, but also like super reassuring to hear that we as high school students don't have to know exactly what we want as careers. It's amazing that you're doing what you love, creating your own goals and reaching those goals. So make sure you drop by their YouTube channel and Instagram at Sweet and Salty Inc. for workshops and updates.
Yes.
Yep. And the recording of this session will be shared on the Peer Leadership Council YouTube channel later this week, so make sure you check it out. If you enjoyed this event, please check out our Instagram, EPS Stuco and EPS_PLC_ for more events in the future. That's EPS Stuco and EPS_PLC_ for more events in the future. And lastly, a big thank you to everyone who joined us today. We hope that you learned more about your interests. And to all of our teachers and volunteers who made this possible, thank you so much. We really appreciate it. And that's it for this session. You're free to log out now. Have a nice day.
Bye.
Bye, guys.
Yep, thank you.